Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue.
Hey, how's it going, eh? This is Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday, and this is a special weekly episode that's a compilation of all the board games that we've been playing recently. And on this episode are the Tabletop Bellhop, Dice and Dragons, Friday Night Games, Board and Game with Andrew B, Mr. Board Games, definitely a board game podcast, Mathew Legault, the Meeple Dungeon, Board on the Air, and Cardboard Conjecture. Remember to check out the show notes for the links to the Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday cast. We've got ourselves a great lineup this episode, so thank you so much for listening and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the Tabletop Bellhop segment of Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday. I am Moe T, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, answering your gaming and game night questions and striving to make everyone's gaming experience better. You can find me at tabletopbellhop.com and all over the internet and social media as Tabletop Bellhop, one word. If you've got a gaming or game night question for me to answer, be sure to send that to questions@tabletopbellhop.com or visit the webpage and click on Ask the Bellhop. Now, of course, the question I'm answering today is what you've been playing this past week. So this week was an interesting one because a number of the games we played both physically and digitally on different nights with different people. Due to this, my list today won't be in chronological order because it makes more sense to talk about each game only once. So first up, we've been playing more Space Base, with our first game being a 3-player game with my co-host Sean, Deanna, and I over Tabletop Simulator. Now, Sean managed to find an amazing mod that is heavily scripted that does a ton of the work for you, including doing things like placing cards onto your boards and deploying by flipping the cards that are there and tucking them and everything. It's called Space Base Bracket Scripted with Expansions Bracket, and you can find it on Steam. Now, we played this 3-player game in preparation for a special event on Sunday, where all three of us, Deanna, Sean, and I, got together with 2 of our awesome Patreon patrons to play Space Base again, using the same mod. We had a great time hanging out with our fans, and the game went really well. It was Sean's best game yet, playing a colony-based strategy, which almost worked. In the end, Courtney, one of our patrons, took the win. Now, that was my first time playing with 5 players, and I do have to say it feels quite different, getting so much stuff between turns so that you can buy almost anything. It almost felt like a shame because we were wasting so much money every round. Overall, we are still loving Space Base, glad to be able to play it online and get to play it with people who are far away that we normally wouldn't get the game with, so that was awesome. Now, next up, we've been playing quite a bit of Tapestry from Stonemaier Games. Now, at this point, I've played 3 more games, and I am really digging this game. Now, 2 of those games were just Deanna and I, and I've got to say that this game plays really well with only 2 people, despite the fact that some of the mechanics are obviously designed for higher player counts, especially the stuff where you're looking to your neighbors. Now, my third play of Tapestry, though, was through Tabletopia. Now, specifically a 3 or 5 player demo version with 5 civilizations only. Now, this was with Deanna and I, and Sean, and we have been digging this game so much, we really wanted to show the game off to Sean. We're like, hey, you got to check this out. Plus, we're going to be reviewing this game, and it's always good if Sean can actually get to play first. So we found this demo version online, found it was free, and gave it a shot. Now, I am sorry to say our experiences were pretty much the complete opposite of playing Space Base on Tabletop Simulator, with that awesome mod Sean found. We found ourselves spending far too much time fighting with the interface, which really impacted our ability to enjoy the game. And I was most disappointed by this due to the fact that this just wasn't a good way to show off a game we're enjoying. The whole point was to show Sean how awesome Tapestry is, meanwhile he's spending more time fighting with the interface than even getting to enjoy the game. Now, thankfully, Sean's a smart boy, and he was able to see the appeal of the game even if he was hating how it played digitally. Now, sticking with digital versions of games that are hindered by the interface, we also tried to show off Guildmaster from Good Games Publishing to Sean with similar experience to Tapestry. Now, there is an official tabletop simulator mod out there that Good Games says is fully scripted, but we found that scripting to be somewhat lacking. A big part of the game, too, is placing cards and tokens on a player board to plan your actions at the start of every round. And in Tabletop Simulator, the way things stack, don't stack, stick, merge, splay, etc. was driving us a bit bananas. It was really difficult to organize your cards. Again, the interface did nothing to help the game, and Sean had already said he didn't think this was going to be his kind of game, but at least now he's seen it play, so when we do get to our review, he'll be able to comment intelligently. Now, as for the rest of us, we are really digging Guildmaster at 3 and 4 players. Besides playing online, we got in another in-person game with the extended family, and overall I found the game worked very well when players are potentially competing to hire heroes and meeting up and completing contracts, which requires 3 or 4 players. Guildmaster has become a favorite of my sister-in-law at this point, and we're really close to publishing our full review at this point. The only thing I want to do first is I want to go back and give it one more try 2 players. Now that Deanna and I are both experienced players and know how to play the game and play it fairly well, I hope, I'd like to see if that experience has changed, because we did not enjoy a 2-player the first time. Next up is a game I never expected to say I was playing with my wife, and that's Riff Raff. This is an older dexterity game from Zoc that is extremely clever. The board, I guess you can call it, in Riff Raff is a wooden ship with 3 masts that you build out of wood that's attached to a weight and gimbal. Each turn, players are placing various shaped and weighted items onto the ship, trying to play all their pieces. The thing is, this ship is wobbly and it rocks a lot. Like, this is the most difficult balancing dexterity game ever played. Now, one thing in this game does that other dexterity games don't is that if you catch a falling object off the ship, it's removed from the game. And trust me, things are going to fall off that ship. That adds a whole different level to your usual stacking dexterity game that I really enjoy. Now, why I'm surprised to be talking about this is that my wife, in general, hates dexterity games, and usually I can't even get her to try them. Now, I will admit there may have been some local craft beer involved in that game night that may have helped open her up to giving it a try. But I will say she had a fantastic time, and so did I. I always love Riff Raff. I can't wait for things to open up so I can start bringing that to public play events. Now, the last game I want to talk about today is World's Fair 1893. Specifically, the new 2nd edition from Renegade Game Studios, which is an Amazon exclusive. I just published my written review for this updated game yesterday, and in prep for that review, we played a 3-player game with my oldest daughter. I'm pleased to say that my daughter really enjoyed it. We're learning that she likes games with competition in them, like the area majority aspect of World's Fair. Now, as for this new edition of the game, it's just as good as the original, and I am a big fan of the original, so I love this just as much. Now, if you don't own World's Fair, this is worth picking up. This is a great gateway area majority game, a really cool theme with lots of interesting information on the cards. Now, if you do own World's Fair, well, I'm not going to spoil that here. You're just going to have to read my review on the blog, listen to our latest episode, or check out our YouTube channel. So that's it for this week. Those are the games that hit my table, both physical and digital. Find lots more gaming content at tabletopbellhop.com, and be sure to check out the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, which we record live Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop, with edited episodes showing up on your podcatcher early Tuesday mornings. Also, check out our new Sunday Brunch with the Bellhop live show that hits Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. This is a completely unscripted show where I just chat with my best friend about whatever topic is of interest to us at the time. For Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I am Moe T, the Tabletop Bellhop. Good night, and game on.
What up, gamers? I'm Jayson.
I'm Julie, and together we're Dice and Dragons. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Dice and Dragons or Dice and Dragon on Twitter.
Yes. We still can't get that S. One day I'll find that person. I might have to go on an epic quest to hunt them down. Let's go.
Oh, look what you did. Actually, what is this, Jayson, that we're doing right now?
We are playing a game that is currently on Kickstarter. It is Tailmore by the Delve Bros. Just want to say a big thanks to the Delve Bros for getting us a high quality print and play version of the game. We did have a little bit of a snafu with the print shop, but that's on us, not on them. And yeah, we've been able to check out the first 2 missions of this game.
Well, it's definitely interesting. It uses I wouldn't even call
Well,
it
it's a web-based app that we have for now, and there's going to be a fully integrated app for iOS and Android that will be coming with the full release of the game.
So basically, you're reading through a story. You're going through a story, making choices, using the app to scan items, to scan different elements of the story as you're playing through the game with other players.
Yes. Now, this game reminds me a lot of the point-and-click adventure games of the past. Games like Myst. You can't die in the game. There is no health. If you fail a combat, you're going to have to restart the combat. So everything is very much like a puzzle that you're trying to solve, and you're playing the game for the experience. The Delve Bros have done a lot of work on the game world itself. There are tons and tons of notes that will be popping up as you play the game. Hopefully, in the final app, they'll be collected so you can read them when you're not in the process of playing the game. Otherwise, your games will take quite a long time. But I really do like the world building that they've done in Tailmore so far.
It would have been fun to have this at the beginning of the pandemic, honestly.
I was thinking about that, and I know we mentioned it. Because of the way the game works, what's really cool, at least with the web app, and hopefully they do the same thing with the full app, you can send other players a link to join your game. Meaning if you have 2 or 3 friends that also have Tailmore, you could easily just be sitting in front and playing the game while you're on FaceTime. You won't even need to do Zoom. You don't need like an extra camera to see the board, because the game's just going to tell you what everyone's doing, and all you need to do is be interacting with the other players. So that's really cool. The potential for remote play in this game is far beyond some of the other games that we've played that have been good for it, but not nearly as good as this one. But you do need multiple copies of the game, so that is a little pricey.
Yeah. Well, and so for me, playing this with you, it was a little bit weird to be sitting beside you playing a game, but kind of not playing a game with you, because most of it is, I mean, we did have some talking. It's not like we were talking, but most of it is reading what shows up on the app, and then, scanning and then continuing to read. So it's not really, I'm not really playing with you. I am, but I'm not.
Well, and I thought that this would succeed a lot more than Chronicles of Crime did for us. I mean, app-based games, for those that watch the channel, know some of our favorite games. We like, physical and app-integrated components. In the original Chronicles of Crime, it didn't hit for us as well because of the story, a few other things. We really enjoyed 1400 compared to that, just because of the way the game really respected your time more. It was a lot of fun. But when it comes to this game, I'm almost wondering why I'm not just playing an app. And I think that's the biggest detriment that I feel while playing the game, is that the entire experience could be in a really cool 3-dimensional world while I'm pointing and clicking and going through the game. You and I could still be playing together just on an iPad instead of each on our own phones.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really tries to get the best of both worlds. It's funny, when you were telling me that this game was coming, I thought, wow, a dungeon crawler that's app based, that's fantasy. It sounds a lot like some of
Journeys in Middle Earth.
Some of our favorite games. I was going to say Journeys in Middle Earth is the first one that I thought of. So, this doesn't quite play it really doesn't play the same way. I really think they're trying to go for something completely different. I'm sure, we said the same thing with Chronicles of Time. I'm sure there's
Chronicles of Crime.
There are some people that absolutely love the technology portion of this that, you're integrating. I'll give them the QR code scan really quickly. I also like the fact that you can just enter the codes and not have to scan, because I've got short little arms, so it makes it easy for me to just enter the information.
No, and I have to agree with you. Whereas Journeys in Middle-earth, it feels like the app is doing a lot of the management, and the physical components of the game still have a large aspect and are very present. I feel that far less in Tailmore. It definitely feels like the physical components could completely be gone, as I mentioned, and you could just play an app. And I think that's a little bit to the game's detriment. As Julie mentions, I do think that other players might love it. Unfortunately, we don't. But I still find the game intriguing. It's not a bad play experience. I almost think that this would be a much better solo game than playing it together.
I agree. I think this could be a lot of fun playing alone. As you say, solo. I just miss, I think there's a little bit, there's a lack of interaction when we're playing together, I guess.
Well, and just to speak to that, because I don't think we were quite clear why. And one of the main things is that in Tailmore, the party marker is for all of the characters. You're moving around the board together. You're going to get into fights together. It looks pretty cool, actually. As Meeple Dungeon mentioned on last week's episode, it looks like a Final Fantasy combat with the characters jumping forward and attacking. And yes, from someone that played old school Final Fantasy, it does capture that feel perfectly, which I thought was a lot of fun. But that party marker, meaning that you're always together, takes away a lot of that separate decision making. Whereas in Journeys in Middle-earth, we're looking at the board, looking at the different things, and we're making decisions on where to go and how we want to interact with it. That doesn't really happen in Tailmore because we're always together. So I think people are going to like the game. I think some people won't like the game. We will have our full Kickstarter preview/review of this coming out one day after this segment.
So again, we'd like to remind everybody to
keep playing games.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm John.
And we're
Friday Night Games.
You can find us on Instagram at FridayNightGames_official, Twitter at FridayNightGMS, and on our website at FridayNight.games. John, what game are we talking about today?
Oh, we are talking about a game that was recommended to us by the lovely Girl Meets Nerd podcast, Dungeon Mayhem, and its expansion, Monster Madness.
Sweet. So Dungeon Mayhem is designed by Jordan Komar, Roscoe Wetlofer, and art by Kyle Farron, published by Pegasus Spiel and Wizards of the Coast.
It is an action-packed Dungeons & Dragons card game called Dungeon Mayhem, and you win by being the last adventurer standing.
Play as one of many characters in a card-based take that gladiatorial combat to be the winner. The game includes all sorts of iconic characters and spells like magic missiles and gelatinous ooze.
Turns are super simple. You draw a card, play a card, and that is it.
If you have no cards when you draw, then you draw 2 cards.
All characters will have card abilities like draw, attack, shield, take extra action, but characters will have their own unique abilities like deal 1 damage to all other characters, or like the gelatinous blob or ooze that will absorb your shield card and deal damage equal to the shield
on that card. Yes, other important rules that you can only attack your direct neighbor left and right unless specified by the ability.
You have to bring everyone else's life points down to 0 to win.
And if you get knocked out, they have a little small rule that instead of playing a card, you just point at someone and they lose a life. They don't have to be anywhere.
That's a powerful player.
Yeah, it's also a pretty boring thing to do, but we'll get into that in a second. Of course, we're going to get into that in the What You Like section. Okay, what did you like, John?
Oh, man, this game was straight out of the box, ready to play. Super simple, easy to learn, easy to teach.
Yeah, it was fast.
It
was fast.
Yeah.
Like, we played maybe like 4 or 5 games. Each game was like 10 minutes.
Yeah, and the art is cool. The initial set has the same artist as Root, Kyle Farron, and even the Monster Mayhem box added different characters from the Dungeons and Dragons lore with some pretty nice artwork. And I will say that I loved that box came with like a storage solution.
Yeah, I actually think the Monster Madness expansion I actually thought that was the main game. To be honest with you, I actually think that if you're going to pick this game up, which I do recommend it for, we'll get into that in a second. But if you do happen to pick it up after this, make sure you get that Monsters Madness box because it actually has more characters in it than the original game. So you can play with a lot more people.
Right.
So I did like I did like how it was. It seemed a little bit fun. It was super casual. It wasn't like anything complicated to play, And we didn't play anything wrong, which we normally do. We didn't play anything wrong with this because it was so simple.
Yeah, I liked it too because we had a simple game to play. We had a friend that we haven't seen since COVID hit come over, so it was nice to be able to like talk with them and like still play this game at the same time. So
yeah, we didn't miss much. What didn't you like about it?
The first thing I didn't like was the Monster Madness box has all the characters that you can get for the game. But what I didn't realize is that there's another kind of small expansion pack with 2 characters.
What?
And the completionist in me like needs to get that other thing, that other box, but I don't know how often I'm going to play this game where I'm actually going to need those 2 characters, but it's going to bother me that it's not completed.
Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. Yeah, I kind of wish they just released it all together. I get that maybe they released the original set of 4 classes, and then it was a big hit between casual people, so then they released a bigger set, and then I don't know, the other 2 must have been like bonus characters, but yeah, I kind of wish they had like a deluxe box with everything. That would have been cool.
Right. Yeah.
So then you don't have to go around collecting everything. It's kind of annoying. Although that does sound like a really Wizards of the Coast thing. Hey, go collect.
Exactly.
Go collect all these things, and maybe you'll be happy. Maybe you'll be angry. I don't know. Your choice.
Figure it out.
One thing I didn't care for the ghost mechanic. It was also mentioned by Bill, who played with us. You guys don't know who Bill is, but that doesn't matter. He actually said it was like, and I agree with this. When it was the ghost's turn to point at someone and take a damage away, usually the ghost wasn't paying attention, and I was thinking of that. That's because the ghost doesn't have cards in their hand, so they're not really paying attention because they don't have anything to look at. So they just point like you, and then they're just like talking for the rest of the time. So, and his suggestion, and I totally agree, is that if a ghost gets out, just let them sit there and talk to people. Because honestly, like that's more annoying than pointing at someone removing a life. Because then everyone has to remember who the ghosts are. Yeah, it just gets annoying.
Yeah, I was really into the ghost mechanic at first, but then you're right. As the game night went on, that's our 4th or 5th game, and I was the ghost for every game.
Well, me too. I didn't win a single.
Yeah, I'm just like
win a single one. So
I was like, who's got the least life and. Is it my turn to do this? Or like I would play before you would play a card. It was weird.
Yeah. We kept doing that, and I don't know. The ghost wasn't a good. I mean, not that it wasn't good. It's not needed. You could put it in if you feel like your group could use it. Then put it in. If you feel like your group's like ours, where they're just like, I don't want to be pointing at someone. I'd rather be like,
it's there to not have that downtime, right? Because if you get out early, then you're sitting there waiting for everybody. I understand why it's in there, but whatever.
Yeah, the game's still casual though, so I think you could, even when you are sitting there, you could talk, not be a problem,
True. It's also one of the guys in our group also said that it can get boring after a while. Like it's not something you're going to play all night. We did just because we haven't seen our friend in over a year, but this is like a really good filler game. So, something to start your night off with, or like end with a casual game, or something like in between while someone else is setting something else up or something.
So if you're gonna pick this game up, pick it up as a filler game, something light, something you're gonna play. Like, don't think this is gonna be the meat of your game night. This is not. This is gonna, or if you're a vegetarian, the shiitake mushroom cap. It's not going to be that, okay? It's going to be like something you're
very specific.
Well, my wife's vegan, so. But it's not going to be the specific, game you're going to play all night. It's going to be something you're just going to do casually. Or maybe it's like a beer game. Like you drink a couple beers, play with your friends, you know? Nothing. Don't take it seriously.
Yeah, for sure. Do we take anything seriously?
No.
True. All right. If you like what you hear, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Friday Night Games _official, Twitter at Friday Night GMS, and always our website, FridayNight.games. Take care.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Andrew Bucholtz of BoardandGamedotcom, and I'm here to talk about what I've been playing this week. This week, I'm going to focus on Circle the Wagons. Circle the Wagons is a game designed by Stephen Aramini, Danny Devine, and Paul Klukla. It was first published by Bud & Shy Games in 2017, and the Bud & Shy Games version features art from Beth Sobel. Bud & Shy Games is quite a cool company that really focuses on designing micro games, 18-card games usually, that fit in one of their little leather wallets. That makes their games extremely portable, and I always like taking Bud & Shy Games with me on trips. Some of their games also pack a really good amount of replayability and variability in that 18-card package. And I think that Bud & Shy has done an excellent job of doing that with a number of these titles, and Circle the Wagons is certainly a good example of that. Circle the Wagons is a 2-player game for the most part, although it does also come with a 1-player variant / expansion, which I'll talk about more later. In a 2-player game, it's a really simple drafting game where you lay out 15 cards in a circle on the table, then take the remaining 3 cards of the deck and flip them over, put them in the middle of that circle. The second player then chooses where the first player is going to start in the outer ring of the circle. The first player will then either draft that card that they're starting on, or they'll skip over that card and maybe other cards as well and take a later card. Any cards they skip go to the second player. The second player then starts the process with the next card and either takes it or skips over some to take another card, with the skipped cards going to the first player. This continues until all 15 of those outer cards are drafted. So what happens when you get cards, either from drafting them yourself or from being given them by the other player? Well, you place them into the little town that you're building in front of you. The cards have to be placed vertically, you can't turn them on their side, and you have to place them so they're orthogonally adjacent to other cards that you already have. You can also place them slightly over top of other cards you already have. Each card is divided into 4 different sections that feature different terrain types and different symbols on them. And what you're trying to do is both build up contiguous areas of the different terrain types, because you're going to score for the most contiguous areas of each of the 6 terrain types at the end of the game, and you're also trying to align the symbols in a way given by the 3 goal cards in the middle. What adds to the replayability of this game is that every game, or in a lot of games anyway, you're going to see different goal cards. You're going to see, or at least a different combination of those central goal cards, because they're just 3 random cards selected from this pile of 18, and they have the normal terrain faces on the back. So that adds to a lot of differences from one play of this to the next. Maybe one game you're trying to make a really small and efficient town. Maybe another game you're trying to position your forts next to your guns. In another game you may be trying to position your gun symbols in line, in row or column with bottles of beer. So you really have to consider how the unique goal conditions of this game are going to affect what you're trying to do. That's something that this design trio actually followed on later with further Bud & Shy games, Sprawlopolis and Agropolis, and both of those are quite good and quite interesting as well, although they play a little bit differently because they're solo and or cooperative rather than head-to-head. Speaking of the solo mode, that's quite a clever inclusion to this game. It's called the Lone Cowboy expansion, and what it does is it continues that same head-to-head drafting approach, but with the AI making their decision on what they will pick based on specific conditions on a card. There are 6 different possible scenarios in the solo game, and each of them is just dictated by one card that has the AI behave a little bit differently in terms of what it's trying to do. The solo variant was designed by Mike Mullins, who's done a lot of solo variants, some for Bucholtz Games and some for other properties, and is also a game designer himself, doing titles such as Solo Game Pentaquark and then the not solo or sometimes solo game Bottom of the Knife. And I think Mullins did a really good job with adding a solo variant that feels very true to the wider 2-player experience of Circle the Wagons. It's a good way to play this game. The 2-player game is also just a great game. It's really easy to explain and it's really easy to play, but there are a lot of good strategic decisions in it. And the game plays very quickly. It's done in about 10 minutes or less most of the time, and it only takes a couple of minutes to explain, so this is quite an easy one to get into. That's Circle the Wagons from Bucholtz Games. I'm Andrew Bucholtz. You can find my board game writing at BoardandGamedotcom, and you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Bucholtz. That's Andrew, Bucholtz. Thanks for listening.
Hey everybody, it's Em.
What's going on, folks? It's R.
And together we are Mr. Board Games.
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Mr_Lonely Table.
And on YouTube by following the link on our profile or searching Mr. Board Games on YouTube.
Today, do you know what today is?
What you've been playing Wednesday.
Today is what you've been playing Wednesday. And this week we had pulled out a game about ghosts and spirits and spooky.
Psychics
specifically. Yeah, it's not Ghost Hunter. We were playing Mysterium, and we played Mysterium with a couple of folks out in our area.
With some friends.
Yeah, we can call them friends too. That's good too.
We played games with friends.
Yay, friends. In case you're not familiar with Mysterium, Mysterium is a pretty simple game, but it's kind of funny. Actually, the runtime on it is 42 minutes.
Exactly.
It's very specific, but that's because it has a little sand timer and you flip it, and it is a game where one person's a ghost, they don't talk, and they have very abstracted cards, and they try to convince people, try to lead them to Suspects, yeah. It's basically Clue, but not really, because there's a person, place, and thing.
Yeah. It kind of like same basis as Clue in that you're trying to figure out who done it, but you have a spirit who is trying to point you to the possible suspects of the murder as the psychics. And then you, after each psychic as a person, place, and murder weapon, you pool your minds and from those ones pick who done it. And it's quite fun, mostly because the ghost can't talk. The cards are super abstract. The artwork is fantastic, but you have to know what the ghost is trying to hint at you to think, to pick the suspect or the place or the thing. And if you're like our male friend.
Yeah. See, the game works fine for Em and I, but then when you throw in some complete strangers, which, I personally have only known for a very short period of time, and, well, COVID kept them away from learning of each other. He did not have any idea what I was thinking, and I had no idea what he was thinking. And it was hilarity.
Yeah, it's just like such a fun aspect because, if you don't know the people really well, you're like looking at the card that they handed you and you're like, well, I see this. And the ghost is going, because they can't tell you. And they're thinking, oh my God, how dense can this person be?
As an example, you take 3 cards. Well, you just use 3 cards, and the common element, well, for this argument's sake, will be red. The color red. However, one will be like boom, red in your face, and one will be like just subtle touches of red, and then another one will be kind of like a picture of an elephant with rain and other things, but there's red on the elephant's trunk or something. I don't know. And I'm trying to say, red. Pick the red color. The red color is the person who's covered in red. That's the one. Go there. And they're going, what does an elephant have to do with this?
And like, what, like, I see elephant, rain, and a fork. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's the chef. Like, maybe the chef cooks elephants, and you're like, no, it's the hunter.
Yes. Or to take it another level, you take 3 animals, and then there's a game room. Well, when I say game room, I mean hunting lounge, where there's like a head of a deer, or a head of this, and you're like, hunter, hunt, and yeah, it's. But you're sitting there, and I think I've gritted my teeth a bunch of times, and then I think the best part of it all at the end of the day, though, is you're like, finally, you got it, and then you're like, well, I can't understand that. And then you make them be the ghost, and like, oh, that wasn't easy. And you're like, yep. And then everybody wants to play the ghost after that.
Yeah, because the ghost is fun. And I mean, we don't play necessarily with all of the aspects. Like, we don't play with the clairvoyancy tokens where you like vote on other people's. And we don't play where you can't ask your other psychics what their opinions are. Like, we kind of very much play as the psychics being cooperative in that we all kind of see what the ghost is throwing out to everybody. But I think that's what makes it enjoyable.
I don't think it lends itself well to competition. I don't even want to find out. I think it's just funny as you're watching people pull their hair out and be like, what are you trying to say? And you're like, it's blatantly obvious, but clearly it's not.
Yeah. And it's one of the games that we bust out when we have people over to introduce to board games, because I think it's not a typical game and it's not a typical style of game that people have been introduced to before. And it's just fun. And again, I'm a sucker for things that are pretty, so.
Exactly 42 minutes.
And it plays in exactly 42 minutes. What's not to love when you know exactly when you can break for snacks?
And that's what we've been playing this week.
Until next time, check us out on YouTube, or you can reach us at Twitter or Instagram at Mr_LonelyTable. And folks, keep it on the rails.
Whoa, I'm the folks person. You're the everybody, but that's for another matter. Keep the dice on the table. You're not taking that from me. Talk to you next week.
Hello, I am A.A. Ron Milich.
And I'm Royce Calverley.
And we are definitely a board game podcast. The podcast definitely about board games, except when we choose for them not to be. And we are here on Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday. Royce, what have you been playing Wednesday?
All right, so Gregoire Largy, Frank Critton, and Sebastian Pochon. Really, it's Sebastian Pochon.
You've been playing all of them?
Sebastian Pochon, he was the designer of Jaipur, probably one of my absolute favorite 2-player games. When he brings out a new 2-player game with these other gentlemen, I get excited. And this was no exception. This is Botanic.
We'll go with
It is a fantastic tile-laying game where you're building out a machine to grow plants. You're growing flowers and vegetables. You're doing it, though, in the most thinky, meanest, harshest way possible. You're setting out these tiles, trying to make sure that the tiles that you want are freed for you, but the tiles that your opponent wants get locked into their space for as long as possible. Great game. Really enjoy this. Botanic by Sebastian Pochon, Frank Critton, and Gregoire Largy. Sebastian Pochon, again, if he puts out a 2-player game, I'm going to buy it.
Nice. And I think you mentioned the artwork was something to ignore on this.
I I wouldn't say to ignore, but it is different.
Yeah.
It is very, very different. And I wonder if the artwork is going to turn some people off. It is, the people on it are fairly creepy looking, forearms, more like spider people than not. It's definitely different, but the game itself is excellent.
That's why I was saying maybe ignore the art. Don't be scared of it. There's a good game under that
Right.
lid.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to do some name dropping here. We've had some outstanding guests on the show recently. Most recently, Tony Boydell. We've had Steve Tassi from Snakes and Lattes. We've had Jamie Stegmeyer. We've had Frank West. But our first guest that we had that was an actual game publisher, producer, creator was Thomasy Mangiuk. He was our first ever. And he's the first Inuit to design a board game, as far as we know. And he designed a game in January 2020 called Nunami. And I finally got a copy of it, and it's fantastic. I love it for a couple of reasons. One, it's a great game, but also I love games that don't look like games. It's so artistic looking. You play with these black and white trays. It's so minimal. And the cards have beautiful art on them, and they're triangular and plastic, and it just has this very unique look. Again, I've talked about this game on our other podcast. It's really hard for me to describe. I'm going to try and remember everything we said. So it's an area control abstract game where you're trying to balance nature and animals. You want to have just enough influence to get points, because if you have too much influence, you're not going to get any points. And if you have no influence, you're not going to get any points. It plays a bit like Othello, if you had to compare it to an abstract game. Very challenging, very, very strategic, complicated, and also replayable, because you get to design the board at the beginning of every game. And you get to place the cards at the beginning of every game. So it's always going to be different. Thomasy was a fantastic guest, really nice guy. Love his game. Can't recommend it enough. Grab yourself a copy of Nunami.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the art, because Thomasy mentioned during the interview that while he designed the game, his daughter and his mother, who are traditional Inuit artists, did all the art for the game in a traditional Inuit style. So it really is a family effort as well. If you want to hear the interview with Thomasy, you can go back and listen. I believe it was episode 22 when we talked to Thomasy. And he talked about designing a game, living in the Arctic, living as an Inuit. Just a really fascinating guy to talk to.
Yep. And if you want to listen to that, you can find our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts live, really. We're pretty much with all the distributors out there. And if you also want to reach out to us, you can always reach out to definitelyboard@gmail.com, at Board Definitely on Facebook, at Definitely Board on Facebook, at Definitely Board on, am I getting this right?
At Definitely Board on Facebook,
and Twitter.
At Board Definitely on Twitter.
There we go. And also, if we have a guild on Board Game Geek, you can find us there as well. Otherwise, I think that's it. Anything else, Royce?
Not a thing.
Say goodbye, Royce.
Goodbye, Royce.
Bye, everybody.
Hey everyone, this is Mathew from Montreal-based board game publisher Scorpion Masqué. Our game Zombie Teens Evolution was unfortunately not selected for the Spiel des Jahres this year, but we were extremely honored to see it selected as one of the 3 finalists. Now if you haven't got your hands on this family-weight legacy-style game, run, don't walk, to your friendly local game store and grab yourself a copy. You can thank me for the laughs and, yes, the tears, later. Good things come to those who wait. Yeah, this old, borderline trite adage is supposed to make people feel better when they're feeling frustrated, impatient, or stuck. Just keep sitting back, doing nothing, and something good will come along. Well, easier said than done, right? Well, I don't know how many of you remember, but not too long ago, we went through a global pandemic. On top of all the very serious effects it had on people all over the planet, it made us wait. We had no choice but to sit back and do nothing. Sure, we kept ourselves busy, but the lack of spending time with people really hurt us. And it hurt our hobby. Because, well, board gaming is all based on spending time with people. Real people in a real setting. Sure, we played online games, we played games with our families and with our kids, but we really missed those game nights. And as a result, games sat on our shelves unplayed. Now, I'm not going to play Heaven and Ale with my 10 and 7-year-olds, or even Wingspan. But there's one game in particular that has been staring at me from my shelf since I bought it last autumn, waiting for me to play it. I'd played it once before, about 4 or 5 years ago, and fell in love with it. But because of stock shortages and then the lofty price tag, I could never get around to picking it up. Until last autumn, when a second-hand copy at a price that I couldn't refuse fell into my lap. And that game is Tyrants of the Underdark. Tyrants of the Underdark is a very simple game to describe. It's a deck-building, area control hybrid. That's it. That's all you need to know. Now, the theme is Dungeons and Dragons, in particular the underground-dwelling Dark Elves, or the Drow. And to be honest, this theme isn't really my favorite. I don't really know that much about that universe, but it works very well with the game's mechanisms, and I'll talk about a little bit about that later. The game plays from 2 to 4 players, and, in a nutshell, each player starts with a deck of 10 cards, and like in classic deck builders like Star Realms, you have cards that give attack values and purchasing powers. You deal yourself 5 cards, you play them, you purchase cards from the market, or you use your power cards to do various actions. And in the meantime, you have a board stretched out on the table in front of you, with paths linking the various cities and settlements of the Underdark. That's where the Drow live. Now, a number of those paths and settlements are populated with neutral white pieces at the beginning of the game, and your job is to mobilize your troops onto the board, remove those white pieces, and populate the Underdark with members of your clan. Area control. You can only place troops on or adjacent to where you already have pieces. But you can also place spies anywhere on the board that allow you to place troops in their spaces. Now, this is where the theme of the game really sings, because the Drow are known for their cunning, their backstabbing, and their underhanded ways. Between the placement of spies, assassination of enemy troops, and the action that allows you to supplant an enemy troop, basically turn it into one of your own, players are immersed into the Drow's cold-blooded universe of ambition and greed. Meanwhile, the cards that you're purchasing are covered in wonderfully dark artwork and provide special abilities that can create absolutely killer combos. The cards are divided into 5 different aspects, kind of like the colors in Star Realms, that define the kinds of strategies that those cards can encourage. The use of spies, deck thinning, attack, movement, that kind of thing. And once again, we come back to what I always seem to come back to. This game allows you to be sneaky, to distract other players while quietly hatching a plan to expose their undefended areas, getting into a war of attrition over a seemingly meaningless settlement, convincing them that the points at the game's end justify the squabble, and then plopping a spy down in their stronghold, assassinating one and supplanting another one of their troops, making them relinquish control of the space and its benefits. Yes, see how the wheels turn. You were so sure of yourself, so secure in your position, but oh dear, your troops are in the wrong place, my friend, and now watch as my clan spreads behind your lines. It's definitely got its satisfying moments. Now, the final thing that's useful is the concept of promotion. Now, this is a version of deck thinning, but instead of trashing cards like you do in Dominion or Ascension, you promote them, which gains you more points at the end of the game. Each card in your hand is worth a certain number of points, but cards that have been removed from your hand and promoted gain you more. And if the card has powerful in-game effects, well, then it's worth a lot more. I love this game. It presses so many of my buttons. I love deck building and I love area control. Star Realms meets El Grande, 2 of my all-time favorites, together at last, like so much peanut butter and chocolate. And the result is just as sweet. I mean, it's rare that it happens, but as I was playing, I just kept saying out loud, oh man, I love this game. Look at... This game is so good. Look at this. And I remembered how amazing it is to play a great game with great friends again. and stirring up all those old feelings of competition and camaraderie. And I realized that good things do come to those who wait. And then you can use those good things to turn around and stab your friends in the back and win. You know, it's just perfect. Thanks for listening. This is Mathew Legault from Scorpion Masqué. Please check out all the games in our catalog at scorpionmasqué.com. Thanks to the gang at Cardboard Conjecture and Whatcha Been Playing Wednesdays again for having me on. And I'll see you all next time.
Hello, everybody. It's Rob and Anna Marie from the Meeple Dungeon.
Hello.
And we are back again recording for the Whatcha Been Playing Wednesdays podcast. And this week we're talking about one game. What are we talking about, Anna Marie?
We are talking about Ashes Reborn, designed by Isaac Vega and published by Plaid Hat Games.
Yeah, and it's the Rise of the Phoenix Born as well attached to that name. Yes.
That's right.
But
I missed that part.
Yeah, so Ashes Reborn. It's an LCG type game, card game, where you are taking control of a Phoenixborn. And a Phoenixborn is a demigod type character that was brought in to help this realm of men take on these monsters and chimeras and things that were running amok on their land. And these Phoenixborn helped rid them of these monsters. And then there was kind of like a peace for a little while. But then these Phoenixborn characters all discovered that if they were to absorb the ashes of the other Phoenixborns, they would have a chance at becoming full gods instead of just demigods. Or that was the prophecy that they were told. So then they all started warring with each other and getting backed by different cities of men, and it became a big old cluster. So in this game, you were just fighting one-on-one, kind of Magic the Gathering style, but way, way, way different than that. So, Anna Marie, do you want to tell them kind of what's going on here?
Yeah, sure. So you have a 30-card deck. The pre-built ones that come in the box and that you get, they have 3 cards, 3 of each card. You can't have more than 3 in each deck. Aside from conjurations, you have conjurations, right, which are kind of, some will have 1 only, some will have 5. There's no rule really on the conjurations.
The conjurations sit in their own side deck.
It's a separate deck. Yeah. And so basically you just kind of set up your board. Your dice are basically your energy. And you get
like
10 dice
like
each.
your magic, yes.
Yeah. And you roll the die. There are 3 different faces on your die, and that becomes your energy pool for like your weakest to your strongest die. Your strongest die can be used as any of the 3 types. And your second highest can be used as your second and your lowest. Lowest can only be used as the lowest. And then the coolest, I don't know if it's the coolest, but I think one of the most coolest thing, I'm just butchering that, but of this game is that you get to pick your starting hand. So you start with 5 cards, and you look through your deck and you choose the 5 cards that you want to start with, which is crazy.
Never happened in any game I've ever played like this.
No.
Where you get to actually pick what you want to start the game with, whatever your strategy might be, you can use it to its full effect with those 5 cards, however you want, and hit the ground running. And then you have to
then it's draw of the draw
as you go.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, is it cool?
Yeah, at least you're not just devastated right off the bat. Right? If you pick up, I only get, you get a weak hand and you're just like, and the other person's destroying you right away. At least this gives you a shot at building something up first, which is very cool.
And you also know that you're going to have 10 mana magic die to work with every turn. But they might be stronger or weaker depending on how well you roll. But you're going to have at least 10 die to work with in some fashion. And each card's going to have a cost associated with those die. And, to play this one card down, I have to spend these 3 dice sort of thing. And you have main actions and side actions. So you're able to do...
You have to do a main action.
Exactly. And then you have an option to do a side action, which are generally kind of weaker and more, just different. But,
yeah, you can attack and you can use spells, and it's very similar to Magic the Gathering in many ways, but my goodness, is it different in other ways. And I love it. We've been playing a whack of it lately. I've played with a character called Cole Rourkewind, who was really, really cool. He was kind of like a pirate, sort of Geralt of Riviera, or whatever his name is there, from The Witcher. He kind of looks like him as a pirate. And you were playing with...
I was playing against that guy, against Cole. I was playing with Jessa Nani.
Yeah, she's cool.
She's like a blood mage almost.
Yeah,
like
she's a voodoo blood demon girl. And then I had this other one, Audette Diamond Crest, who's kind of like this holy knight, sort of like, I don't know, like super light. Like it would be a white creature or white person from Magic, as some people will recognize.
And then the other one that I've been playing with is Aradel Summerguard, and she's more like a water, kind of a water type person who uses. She was interesting. She was the most recent one I played because she had in her deck she had no attackers. Her deck is all spells, and then her conjurations have low attacks, but you can get quite a few out. Yeah. And so it was interesting. It was definitely interesting. I have never won one of the many games that we've played where I was playing as Jessa Nani. I have not won against her. I haven't figured out her deck yet.
But Aradel
was really good.
Really good.
Especially at least against...
She had an answer for everything that Audette had in this deck. And I should mention, I've been playing a few games against Ryan from the Bridge City Board Gamers, and we are going to be doing a 7-game series of this on Twitch or YouTube or something. Ryan will have more details out there. But yeah, we're going to be doing a 7-game series to determine some sort of champion, and we're going to end up gifting a gift card to the other whoever wins for their city's local board game store.
I guess we should mention how you win. Each Phoenix Born has its own
they have the
life value, and it's just once their life gets to 0, the other person wins.
Similar to Magic, except for each Phoenix Born has their own life. Like some have 19, some have 15, and I think most are 15 to 20, something like that.
Yeah.
Where in Magic you start with 20. But yeah, this game is fantastic, and we have the new version of it. There's an older version that came out in 2015, and we have the new version, the updated rules, the updated characters.
The cards.
The updated cards, the updated artwork. Oh, it's fantastic.
It's very good.
But yeah, we got to run, so we will see you next week. Cheers.
See ya.
Hi, I'm Shea.
And I'm David.
And you're listening to Whatcha Been Playing.
No.
Yes. You're listening to Whatcha Been Playing, a weekly podcast featuring a bunch of Canadian board game content creators.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about what we've been playing.
Yeah, what have we been playing, Shea?
I haven't played a lot, but you played Wingspan,
yes.
And I've played it before, so we thought we'd talk about it.
Yeah, Wingspan is still one of the best-selling games out there. Continues to be one of the best-selling games since it's been released. In the year it was released, it won everything for awards other than the Spiel.
It didn't win the Kinderspiel?
I don't think it did.
Or the Spiel de Jar or whatever it was nominated for?
I don't think it did.
Oh, okay.
I think it was upset or something. But I know it won all the Dice Tower awards. It won a bunch of other people's awards.
Yeah.
It is a solid engine building game. In it, you have action cubes, and you're going to put them on your board and do one of 4 actions. You're either going to put a bird card down, you're going to get food, you're going to lay eggs, or you're going to get more bird cards. The board is split up into 3 different areas. There's a grasslands, a wetlands, and a forest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on how many birds there are in an area, you're going to be able to do more when you do those actions because a lot of the bird cards have other abilities on them.
Yeah.
Some just give you points.
Some give you an instant bonus, and then some give you an action after you've played it. And we played with the European expansion, which also adds end of round actions on those, or powers, and also when somebody else does something, powers.
Yeah. This game's really cute. I think is a big thing.
It is a beautiful game.
I mean,
that's
Elizabeth
well-produced.
Hargraves, I think, like, she's really good at creating those games that are just, or designing those games that are just adorable.
Yeah, this one just hit with everybody, new gamers and seasoned gamers alike.
Yeah.
I know there are people that don't like it, but there's not a lot of them.
No, I'd say it's definitely the minority, and I don't shame anybody for disliking games. A game is never going to work for everyone.
Yes.
But I do think that this is a spectacular game. I like the engine building to it. Like, most of the time I feel like I'm able to do stuff. I think I've only played one game of Wingspan where I really felt like I was way behind everyone. I think it was because it was my first game and nobody else had everybody else had played before.
Yeah.
But I like the little eggs. We've upgraded to the Geek Up bits, right?
Yes, we have the Geek Up bits for food.
Which is always fun.
Yeah, and I think the new expansion, there's going to be another Geek Up bit coming, or set coming.
Right, because we have
nectar.
The
Neoprene
Oceanic.
Mats. Yeah, Oceanic is the second expansion. We haven't played this one yet. It adds a new resource and just changes the boards up. Initially, I bought the Neoprene Mats. Then, shortly after I got them, they announced the Oceania expansion that changed the mats. Stonemaier Games was actually very good in that they sent out a note to everybody that bought the original neoprene mats and offered them half off the other neoprene mats. So I bought a bunch more.
Yeah.
And now I have, and they're nice because they come with the original mat on one side and the expansion mat on the other.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you can still play both. I know I've seen stuff or people online talking about, what do you do with the extra 5 boards, right? Because it takes up space. That box is not huge. But there is a big box coming this year, or a big storage unit, sort of like they did with the Legendary box with Scythe and stuff.
Yeah, because they have teased that there's going to be more expansions for different birds of the world, right? So,
yeah, there's lots of regions they can go to.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see where they go, and hopefully in this big box it'll provide more space for future expansions.
Yeah, I suspect so. Stonemaier Games has done this with a lot of his games, where he keeps releasing stuff for them. I don't know if there's, like, even Viticulture has had new stuff come out for it in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
Scythe continues to have little things come out for it, like new missions or the modular board.
Yeah.
So he stands behind his games and he keeps updating them. Wingspan's probably the last big game he's released.
We don't talk about the next one?
Well, just successful.
Oh,
is
sorry,
what I mean.
the less successful one.
He's released games since then, but none of them have had the staying power of this one and Viticulture and Scythe.
Yeah.
And as popular as Viticulture and Scythe are, Wingspan has outsold all of them.
Well, I think it's more not relatable. You can have
approachable.
Approachable is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, more beginner gamers could go to this game.
Yep.
Whereas I wouldn't necessarily pull Scythe out for a new player, and I wasn't a huge fan of Viticulture. You know this.
Yeah, I know you're wrong.
You say I'm wrong, but I'm not a big fan of Viticulture. I find it kind of boring. So I think Wingspan is a good introduction, but also like you said, seasoned gamers can really enjoy this one still.
Yeah, we've played this a number of times, and it is still one of my go-to for a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
So that is Wingspan. A big thumbs up from me.
Absolutely.
I'm David.
And I'm Shea.
And we are Board on the Air. You can find us on CFCR every Thursday night at 6 o'clock, a radio show in Saskatoon, and all of your favorite podcasting sites. Have a great night.
Hey there, it's Norm from the Cardboard Conjecture podcast and Bridge City Board Gamers here in Saskatoon. And to answer the question, what you been playing Wednesday? Well, what I've been playing is In the Hall of the Mountain King, designed by J. Cormier and Graham Jans, published by Burnt Island Games. And Dave from Board on the Air came over, and him and Jordan played. We played face to face. Face to face. Well, I mean, not that close. It freaked me out just thinking about it. Yes, but we played In the Hall of the Mountain King. It was my game, taught to me, and wow, what a fantastic game! I'm not gonna go too deep on it because I think I might want to do a review on a regular podcast review episode, but I'm gonna just give it to you from two angles. The first angle, I mean, what you see on the board is gorgeous. The artwork's gorgeous. It's basically, you're looking at a collapsed a mountain where previously there were trolls that were there, and there was a big battle between the gnomes, and there was a whole, kind of fight, and let's say one got kicked out. And but we enter the game where the trolls are trying to dig their way back into this mountain and find items, bring them closer to the center for reverence to the Mountain King. And you do that. You do this movement in the mountain or the game board through polyomino tiles. And I was so just locked into the way that this is used. It's different. I mean, not that I played a whole ton of games, but I've seen the not the repetition, but the application of the polyomino tile for filling in stuff. Here's a container, fill it in with this. But this version was not fill in a container, but go explore. Carve tunnels. I thought that was so cool. And not just the idea of carving tunnels, but also designing it in a system that you could put these great halls in. What these halls represent are abilities for end-of-game scoring, also the concept that the closer that there was zones from outside to inside. And as you progressed interior, these zones, as far as the scoring was concerned, had elevations. They had thresholds. And you tried to move certain items with, again, like I said, without getting too deep. I'd like to get a deep dive review on this. But you have to make choices on what's your priority. Now, the cool thing I liked about it was as you're moving these tunnels, you can't interact with anybody else, right? So there's no take that necessarily. You can get to certain places faster than the others and have certain statues which are, primary scoring, I guess, elements in this game. Yeah, and also too, this is going to come back into the other part that I want to talk about is the influence, the muse to this game, is the resources, the stack of trolls, because you have this pyramid resource tableau that you're building as you recruit or draft certain trolls that have resources associated to them. And the triggering system is very cool. You're building from the bottom layer up a little base layer 4 pyramid system, which is also the timer to your game. How clever is that? Very clever. So every time that you put a card down, you trigger or you activate the pyramid underneath that pinnacle. If certain resources are already there, then they can't double up. So the idea is to efficiently use the resources before you draft another troll to trigger the cascade of resource replenishment. Now, without getting too deep into that, I want to jump into that muse side, because we had the opportunity to talk to Jay, and this game was inspired by the musical piece in the Hall of the Mountain King. And if you don't know the piece, I'm not going to hum it for you, but you can go check it on YouTube. And the moment, I guarantee you, the moment that you get 5 seconds into it, you go, oh yeah, okay. The piece itself starts out at a slow pace, but it's methodical, and it slowly starts to increase. Not so much that you notice immediately, but there is this ramping up, this slow acceleration, to the point where all of a sudden you catch yourself in the middle of this crescendo of frenetic choices. And as far as the music goes, it comes fast, and it keeps the same melody, but the melody's tightened up and faster and a more staccato kind of thing. And boy, you pay attention to the music, as does the game itself in regards to the beginning and the game system and momentum. And by the end, because of this resource tower, the moment you put that last troll on, which triggers the cascade, wow, there's a whole lot of stuff coming on and choices, and it comes at you very fast and quick. So I love that parallel of influence from a musical piece to an inspiration on the board. So well done. Well, kudos. So that was In the Hall of the Mountain King, designed by J. Cormier and Graham Jans, and published by Burnt Island Games. And we are at the point in this episode where I always thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what we have to say. And of course, as always, thank you so much to the fantastic content creators who collaborate and contribute each week to produce such a proud Canuck product, eh? And that being said, keep your stick on the ice and take care out there, eh? If you like the content that we produce and the type of show we're creating, please leave a happy rating on iTunes or the podcast platform that you use. This would be such a great gift, and it would help make it easier for others to find us when they search for Board Game Podcast. This episode of Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday has been brought to you by the people from Cardboard Conjecture, who finally got to play a game together. What a wonderful experience.